Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I flew here on the 5 a.m. flight from Montreal and ate enough Advil to kill a horse, so let's get started. So my wife gave birth 3 months ago, and we spent 3 days living in the hospital. I noticed that everything in the hospital room today is electronic and smart. Even the beds in hospitals now have Wi-Fi-enabled trackers. Everything was smart, that is, except the sharps container, which you can see up there. It sat on the wall the whole time we were in the hospital room, full to the brim, and never touched by anyone, not even the cleaner. I've worked in hospitals for the past several years as a medical student, and this can be a real problem. Doctors and nurses will often have to walk room to find a room with an empty sharps container. And this might seem small, but needle stick injuries have a big human cost in healthcare. Nurses rank them in the top 3 of workplace safety issues, and they cost hospitals hundreds of millions of dollars each year. Hi everyone, I'm Jamie. I'm the CEO of NeedleAID Smart, and we are reshaping the way that healthcare industry deals with sharps waste, one of their most overlooked and dangerous problems. So sharps waste management really still hasn't caught up with 2025 vibe. It's still 100% manually. That means that employees or contractors have to circulate through thousands of rooms in a hospital and manually check every container. And the rates of overfilled containers can exceed 25% and are often full for days, which poses a serious and expensive risk for hospitals. That's why we created NeedleAID Smart, our easy-to-use sensor software system that works with any sharps container or biohazard bin. 12 months battery life, and it blinks red when container is full to signal a change to cleaners. That's super simple. A monkey could do it, but it's not enough, because cleaners don't have to deal with one container. They have to deal with 1,000. Here's the floor plan of an average hospital, which could have anywhere from 1 to 3,000 containers. And the guidance that this cleaner is going to get on their 8-hour route is, okay, make sure you stop here, here, and there. Okay, off you go. Not great. We solve for this problem with our proprietary software. On the manager's end, you can see the status of any container in the hospital, sort by urgency, priority, or zone. For a field user, they get our Route Finder Assistant, which uses our proprietary ML and AI assistive technology to build their route and only shows them containers that they need to visit with the least number of steps. That's a 10x efficiency. Our software is built on a progressive web app that's iPhone and Android compatible, so it doesn't require any extra download steps or take up any space on your phone. This is our value prop for hospitals. 99% reduction in needle stick injuries from overfilled containers, 90% time savings and labor savings for sharps collection, and critically, the EHS managers get to complete their inventory with a click of a button. They are the key decision makers, so when you make them happy, you get the contract. And for sharps waste companies, real-time logistics data, fuel, labor savings, optimization, the whole load, and critically increased customer satisfaction, which is what leads to those 5-year contracts getting renewed. Our business model is a B2B SaaS model with scaled pricing based on the number of hospitals coming on board, and we've worked these price points out with real-world users and hospital execs, so we know they're tolerable. But don't take my word for it. Let's go to the finance slide. Okay, so a hospital with 500 beds, 100 cleaners, and 1,500 sharps containers is going to pay $15,000 a year setup fee and $15,000 a year. That contract cost is worth around $100,000 for us. We keep about half after COGS is dealt with. But what are the savings for the hospital? The hospital is going to save $75,000 a year off the bat just on time and labor savings, because you don't have to have 100 cleaners dealing with sharps containers anymore. You just have one. Additionally, they're going to save $10,000 to $50,000 on their insurance bill and their needle stick injury costs. We know that because we've looked at the data. And on top of that, there's some managerial savings. So over 5 years, the hospital is going to save $500,000. They make the money back that they spent on us in the first 6 months. So in terms of our scale-up strategy, we're a SaaS with a one-time setup cost. This is ideal for scaling. There's 2,500 hospitals in North America and the EU that are appropriate for this tech, with an annual market cap of 60 to 100 million just for this application of the technology. Ask me about that in the question period. We project a conservative 3x scaling with profitability from year 1, bringing us to $30 million in total revenue and $10 mil in net by year 6. How are we going to scale? We're going to bring the MUHC on as our first customer this year, and we have interest from UHN in Toronto as customer number 2. They're a Mayo Network Innovation partner, and Mayo is also interested, so this allows us to bunny hop into the Mayo Innovation Network, which has 40 hospital networks across North America and Europe, as well as exploring other interested partners that we've been talking with. If that wasn't enough, let's talk about traction. We have a full pilot in progress at a top hospital in Montreal, $150,000 in non-dilutive funding committed for that pilot. We filed our US and Canadian provisional patents with an FTO analysis completed, no infringement found. As I said, significant interest from globally recognized health authorities in the US and Canada, as well as from a number of EHS managers, and a major industry player that's strongly interested in partnering us. Ask me about it in the question period. Our team has worked for 5 or more years innovating in the sharps, waste, and needle safety space. We are the people that can get this done. We have more than 80 years of combined experience. We've filed multiple patents, won numerous awards for our tech innovations, and we have a diverse and experienced set of advisors in business, law, healthcare, and manufacturing, as well as partners across Canada. I am flying back to Montreal at midnight to eat another horse worth of Advil and resume parenting duties. So if you want to talk to me about this, please come up to me sometime in the next 4 hours and meet me, or call the number on the business cards that you guys are going to get after this session. And I'm ready to take questions now. So I'm excited to hear you guys' questions.
We will now begin the question and answer period. Judges, please raise your hand if you have a question, and a microphone will be brought to you.
Great presentation right here in the front row. Maybe you could help us understand how you set the price point for this service, and then maybe what are the other applications for this technology?
Yeah, excellent question. So we set the price point both by looking at how much the hospitals are going to save, and also by talking to folks in the hospital networks about how much they would tolerate to spend on something like this. At the end of the day, we're relatively flexible, so we're still exploring this. One other option that we're considering is distributing that setup cost over the cost of the 5-year contract, so they don't pay anything at setup. This is something that a lot of other companies in this space, like Sharps waste management companies, for instance, Daniels or Stericycle, they actually don't make the hospital pay for anything, and they own the Sharps containers themselves. So that's something that we're looking into as well. The trouble with that is there's a higher cost, burden on us, and if we haven't raised a ton of money as a big company yet, it's harder to absorb those costs. But we're working on it. The other half of your question was about other applications for the technology. Yeah. Let's jump through some of these slides. Okay, this is a real-world scenario right here. This is a nursing stock room. You have one of these in every ward. You do not want to be the person to tell that nurse that the tubing, the 5mm gauge tubing is out, and it's going to take somebody time to run down to the stock room and go and get it. You also don't want to be the stock manager who has to deal with 300 to 500 unique items for every one of these. It ends up being like the head nurse's job half the time. This is really inefficient. The same sensor technology and software platform that we've built to deal with Sharps container fullness can also deal with 5mm tubing bin emptiness. Same logic, and suddenly you have happy inventory managers who can, with a click of a button, figure out where they need to send stuff that morning and get real-time alerts when something is empty.
Over here on the left, sorry. So I think I saw you said you have 2,600 different hospitals you could go into. Which ones are you going to go first? Like in your ideal client profile, what does that look like?
Yeah, excellent question. So 2,500, and this is really our roadmap right there. This is what we're doing right now, what we're going to do. So we expect the MUHC, which is the McGill University Health Network, to come on as customer number 1. We're already embedded in their hospitals, so we're working to get government grants that will, bring them in as the first customer, and they might pay a portion, and the government will pay the rest of the portion. So we're working on that right now. From there, we've already had conversations with all of those logos on the list, so that's why they're up there. They're all interested. What UHN wants to see is the pilot completed at the MUHC, and we're already at the pilot in progress. Once UHN is in the bag, they are a Mayo Innovation partner, and we've already spoken with some of the high folks at Mayo. They told us, go through UHN because that's our partner in Canada, and we'll bring you into the US. To get into the US, we need to do a little bit of regulatory work, which we're working on already now, but we don't expect a high regulatory burden because technically speaking, this is not a medical device. It's actually a companion device, although in the US, Sharps containers are Class 2 medical devices. So we're working on that. And from there, 40 health networks from the Mayo Clinic, where we have interest from MGB, from Leahy Health, from Florida.
Over here. So interest is not a sale, and hospitals are notoriously bureaucratic. So how are you going to get to these numbers in that time frame when the real world comes calling?
Excellent question. So yes, interest isn't a sale. However, we've spoken to the decision makers, and it's the decision makers that are interest. We have a lot of luck in this particular case. Selling to hospitals is astoundingly difficult. However, that's when you have to deal with a bunch of different departments and doctors and purchasing departments. In this case, it's just two decision makers. The EHS manager, which is not inside a clinical ward, it's just the person that runs cleanliness and Sharps container facilities for the hospital, plus that dude's boss, which is the finance guy in the hospital. He might have a different title for every hospital. Those are the only two people that we have to talk to bring them on board. So we're very lucky. It's extremely streamlined. We've already located those folks, learned what their objections are, dealt with that, and our plan in terms of building out is really to show concrete data from this first pilot. At the same time, to scale quickly, we intend to partner ideally with one of the two major Sharps container companies globally. There's only two. It's Daniels Health and Stericycle, which just got bought by Waste Management. And so we're having conversations with both of them, and we aim to use their pre-existing network to scale this product out. We're confident that we can do that. Yeah?
Oh, is it me? Yeah, I love the pain point, the problems there, but why now?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Well, first of all, someone's going to do it in the next 5 to 10 years, so we have the patent, it's going to be us now. We feel we have a strong grasp of the IP landscape, and we've been there first. Additionally, nobody did this before because 3, 4, 5 years ago, hospitals weren't up on Wi-Fi yet. The whole hospital wasn't. Now they are, so you can place a little bracket on every Sharps container with a sensor and plug into the Wi-Fi, almost no bandwidth required because they're barely sending any information back and forth, and you can wire up the whole hospital like that. So that's an advantage. In terms of why now, there was this big smart hospital craze 5 years ago. Everybody remembers it. It didn't really mobilize into anything. One of the reasons was because the hospitals did not have the Wi-Fi and low RAN bandwidth yet. They do now. It took them 5 years to get there. And hospitals are figuring out that they have a serious problem. I like to say this all the time. If the doctors left the hospital tomorrow, the hospital would keep running. The nurses would just take over all the tasks. If the EHS people and the cleaners left the hospital, in a week the hospital would shut down. But hospitals can't retain their EHS staff. They lose 4 out of 5 EHS staff that they train. Every time they train 5, they keep 1 after 1 month. So they pay to train them, and these people leave because they're poorly paid. What the hospitals need to do, and have already started to do, is to reduce their labor, and sometimes they contract this sort of stuff out to people like Daniels and Stericycle already, and we can sell this technology to them too, but other times the containers will sit full for days, weeks, because nobody's paying attention because they're just running through cleaners. So the hospitals know that they need to become much more efficient, and becoming a smart hospital is one way to do that. It's a buzzword, but I like it.
Hi there, over here. Similar to the question about the bureaucracy and the sales to hospitals, you mentioned that insurance costs could come down as a result of using the product. How tangible or real is that in terms of, could that be built into the business case as a cost saved as opposed to relying on the hospital to reduce headcount and be more efficient to realize the benefit?
Yes. So the specific saving that we're talking about here is you're going in model number 1 from 100 cleaners that have to touch Sharps and Sharps waste disposal buckets to 2 cleaners that have to touch Sharp's waste disposal buckets if they're using our technology or if they contract it out. So they can turn around to their insurance provider and say, we have significantly shrunk our burden for this particular instance. Needle stick injuries are expensive. They cost hospitals on average $10,000 to $50,000 per instance, because you have to send that person to the emergency room immediately. They have to get prepped. They have to get blood tests done. They have to go on treatment for 6 months. They may be off work. They may have a life-changing disease. It's one of the biggest expenses, and I can tell you horror stories, let me tell you, horror stories. So it's real, it's calculable, and hospitals will undertake this kind of risk. I've read reports that the MUHC and other groups have done when they assess this specifically in relation to needle stick injuries. There are calculations that you can do that they've done. We know this is a money saver for them. So that's the advantage of shrinking your team of responsibility down to just 1 or 2 people. Does that answer your question? I think there was a second part, though. Okay. Maybe one more.
Thanks. Great presentation, terrific business model. I want to talk about commercial risk, and in particular substitution goods, or what I'll call line extenders from these companies you've been talking about, people that already do related things. And in particular, I want to ask, in the world of, I'm a nerd from Silicon Valley, there are loads of IoT players that provide similar, what I'll call, environmental management systems that can put endpoints on it like this. How do you compete with the larger ones?
Yeah, this is an excellent question. To my knowledge, and I've reviewed the IP landscape quite thoroughly and looked at the competitive landscape, there's nobody that's doing this specifically for Sharps containers. And I think one of the reasons is that it's so
Your
niche
time has expired. Judges and guests, please help me in thanking Jamie. Judges, please stay in your seats as the next student entrepreneur presentation will begin in a few minutes.